Hi, so I'm David Anderson, and it is July 11th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. This is the Timex Sinclair online user group meeting. Tonight we have practically no agenda except for what Adam tells us we're going to talk about.
Don't look at me. Don't look at me.
Well, that's what you're supposed to do, Adam. You're supposed to, be able to ad lib something.
Oh, well, I could do that then if you really want me to. David's going to give us an update of his website because he scanned in something like 1,000 pages worth of newsletters, which is that about right?
No, it's way more than that. I did the math. It's way more
Oh,
than that.
that's crazy. And it's all up on your site now, right?
hmm hmm
Yeah,
Yeah.
but not
Well,
indexed.
right. So actually, I'll jump into that. So Jack Boatwright, and I'll give a little bit of history about Jack's story in a bit, but Jack Boatwright sent me two large boxes. One was a office paper box, a photocopier paper box, right? And the other one was about the same size, and both were packed full of old newsletters and magazines and some documentation from Stan Lemke, who wrote Pixel, Pixel Print Plus, and Pixel Print Deluxe, but both desktop publishing programs for the 2068. And then a little bit of documentation from a guy named Rod Gowen, who was a longtime supporter, longtime vendor of Timex stuff. So I got these two boxes, and I thought, oh my God, to this point, prior to these two boxes, I have been using a flatbed scanner, this flatbed Epson scanner that I got so I could scan negatives. It comes with a little doojiggers for your negatives. And scanning up to that point, newsletters was a very slow process. You put the page down, you close the thing, you flip it over, you close the thing. Very, very slow. Very slow. But Carl had mentioned, scanners with auto document feeders. And I thought, oh, I'll go look for one of those. And I bought one of these little tiny things. And when I say tiny, it's like 13 or 14 inches long and 2 inches on a side. It's like the size of a box of aluminum foil that you get at the grocery store, right? But with a slot in it. And you stick the paper in it and it scans both sides at the same time. It goes through really fast. Like, I don't even have time to read anymore. I just sit here and feed sheets of paper into the thing and press the button. So there were, I uploaded 621 issues of magazines and newsletters and whatnot to archive.org, and that effectively doubled the number of issues that I had, that are in the website.
Wow.
So we're up to like 1,250 roughly issues.
And you've done all this in the past month or so, right?
Well, so the scanning of these 620 some odd took me a week and a half. I mean, it was just like really lightning fast compared to years, literally years. I mean, I went back and looked, and my first upload to archive.org was 7 years ago. And I would be getting stuff off of eBay, small quantities of stuff off of eBay to scan. So literally, Jack doubled our knowledge base, our collection of, our quantity in one shipment. So all of this, got scanned, and then I stuck it in bankers boxes, and I went and asked Google how many sheets of paper fit in a banker's box, and it's about 2,000. So there's about somewhere between 4 and 4,500 sheets of paper, most of which are double-sided. So somewhere in the order of 6,000 to 7,000 pages of newsletters added full run of the Plotter, which was the newsletter for the Clackamas County Timex Sinclair group, which is out in Washington or Oregon. I can't remember for sure. And that was actually one that Rod Gowen formed. Huge numbers of the Cats, which was the newsletter of the Capital Area Timex
Yep.
Sinclair group out of DC.
Yep.
I'm trying to think what else was there that was
Hello.
just a huge addition.
Hello. Does anyone hear me?
Yeah, we hear you just fine, Jay. Can you hear
Okay.
us?
Yeah, I'm having trouble with my video.
Okay. So literally thousands and thousands of pages, and now I will spend the next, it feels like a year probably, just cataloging all of those articles. But so one of the things that came out of this was at some point I had stumbled across this mention of a video digitizer that the Sinclair Milwaukee users group had made available back in the late 80s.
I've got it.
Oh, do you? And so does Willie, as it turns out. So I'd stumbled across this mention, and I'd hoped, eventually to find some more information about it. Not only did I find more information about it, but we've got the original articles that appeared in SyncLink. Oh yeah, that was right. And SyncLink was another one that got a whole bunch of issues.
Yeah, the Milwaukee group was SMUG.
Yes, the Milwaukee group was SMUG. Yes. So it started out in SyncLink. The SMUG folks did a bunch of work and produced a bunch of circuit boards and fully assembled units that you could, buy. And then it made its way over to CATS, and I think also the Ram Top, which was the newsletter of the Cleveland, Ohio user group. So I've got all these references now, and now we can actually build one of these things, which will eventually happen. I'm not too happy with my I plugged the schematic into a CAD program, and I'm just not too happy with my layout right now. So I'm gonna probably
you should be aware that there's two resistors that they made a mistake about. They need to be swapped around. There's like 3 resistors at the top of their board, board, and the outer 2 need to be swapped.
Okay, I think that might be in the revised schematic, which introduces an error, but is also,
yeah, I think it is in there.
Yeah. And a couple capacitors, some alternative values for some capacitors. So yeah, I'm kind of trying to plan for that eventuality in the circuit board that I want to produce. But
I want to say that, Jay, you happen to just remember that off the top of your head from something that you bought 35 years ago?
Yeah, I happen to, because I went up there and I bought it and they talked to me about it. See, I'm here in Chicago, and it's like a couple miles. It's like New York to Philly.
Yeah.
Something, so I went up there with Nazir, and I remember that. I have, well, I tell my friends I have CDO. It's like OCD, but I like to keep the letters in alphabetical sequence.
So that's been my past few weeks since we last met. And another box is going to land any day now. It's been in Buffalo since the 6th, and for some reason the post office doesn't want to deliver it yet.
I feel like we should chip in and get you a summer intern.
I'll teach my 17-year-old how to run the scanner.
YouTube scanner. I don't know if you don't win that one.
Exactly.
David?
Yes.
Yeah, on the digitizer, I've built all the analog section just on breadboard, and all the values are correct. All the timings are right.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So apart from that link that's wrong on the 556 that I mentioned.
Yeah.
everything else. There might be something on the logic where they're not pulling something high or low or something, but all the analog section looks fine. All the timings. I did the 1881 sync separator, plugged it all through it. All that stuff works according to the scope anyway.
Oh wow! So Tim, the original schematic does have a jumper on 12 to 13. And then for whatever reason, when George revised the schematic, George Chambers is the person who drew the schematic. When he revised the schematic, he moved the jumper. It makes no sense.
So yeah, it does work with the original jumper in the original spot, but with the new capacitors that they swapped out on the second revision on the
Okay. Okay, so, good. Good.
Yeah, I'll finish the breadboarding all the digital stuff too, just to make sure it all works before you order any PCB.
Well, Tim, I'll share my project with you.
Oh, cool.
And then I'll have, you have far more expertise at this than I do. But yeah, actually, I was hoping you would speak up and I could share it with you. Cool.
Tim, I noticed that a little while ago you posted something to the group. Is that what you talk about? I didn't get a chance to read it yet. Like sometime in the last few hours.
Yeah. It's a proper breakdown of how the thing works, because I've viewed most of the signals on a scope and stuff. So it's not like theoretical. I actually see it happening. So I actually plugged a HDMI to NTSC converter onto it, so I had a signal for it, and yeah, it all looks as if it all looks right. So,
so you're using PAL down in New Zealand, I guess? Is that
yeah, I had to buy a HDMI converter. I don't have anything. I don't have anything that makes NTSC. So apart from my my 2068 that I've got, which does make NTSC, but it'd be funny scanning itself. It would.
Well, don't think
like doing that.
Tim, don't think that hasn't passed by me to feed the video output of the 2068 directly into its capture to see what it does.
You're going to make a black hole if you do that. It's part space time, so
but it'll be like those old video video feedback projects that people used to do, except slower.
The infinity mirror, if you've ever seen that, they put two mirrors back to back, and
yeah, cool. All right, so Adam, what's next?
I guess you asked me to cover the book that I posted a. Are you going to go there next?
Yeah. You want me to bring the blog post up?
Sure, if you can, that'd be
okay.
That'd be snazzy, I guess.
I read that book when I was like 14 or 15 years old. That is super awesome.
This color graphics book?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Good. Okay. I am. Here we go. There we go.
All right, cool. Well, basically, this is the second one. Yeah. So, and in the last couple of weeks, I have posted 2 blogs, and David has been kind enough to fix them up, because when I do them, they're pretty rough. And the first one he did and put it online all by himself. And then this one, he's made it so I can log into his server and actually upload it. And he was mentioning before the meeting actually started that it's not live anymore, which is a good thing. So whenever I'm done, he's got to well, I don't know, what exactly do you have to do to make it get up there? Just
no, it is like it's let me bring. So we're actually looking at if
well, it's live now, but I mean, it wasn't live when I uploaded it, right?
Oh, right. So what happens is I was kind of explaining a little earlier before we started is I'm running a development server on a Raspberry Pi that is literally 2 feet to my right, and it's a tiny little box. It's like this big, and it runs my literally massive website. There's something like 20 some odd thousand pages, as websites are counted, and so Adam, I got it set up so that Adam can log in. Yeah, actually, if you're so inclined, you can look at that URL and go to the website now and probably cause it to crash from too much traffic. But so I set Adam up with an account, and he logged in and plugged his thing in, and then I run a process that exports the entire site as static web pages and then push that out to the public web server. So when you go to timexsinclair.com, you're hitting static HTML pages. You're hitting a sort of render of the website. So Adam puts a blog post in, and then I've got to go and run the export and then the upload. And it takes a little bit of time, but it's I mean, in terms of development, it's fantastic. So I don't
Are
mind.
you able to do just like the new sections, or you have to do it all?
So yeah, there is a way to do the new sections, and I'm going to be testing that probably with, you know, something that you do or something that I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I plan to do another one maybe this week. It's going to be shorter because I think this first one was a little long, but it was fun to do. I covered the first chapter, which is about 4 or 5 programs, and of course, since there's basic programs, in the first one I typed in, I was like, there's an error in the first one. You know, if you look at line 30, it says 4Z. Do you notice anything missing on that line? You know, so yeah, you know, but luckily I'm not typing in all the programs in the book, because there's, I don't know, let's see, let me take a look at my book.
There's actually 3 errors. They're spelling color wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I decided to go with that spelling because, you know, hey, it is, if we're going to say Z, we can go ahead and spell it that way as well. So, but I then the next one had an error as well. But the programs, the large programs, I don't have to type in because someone took the version of the book that was published for the ZX Spectrum, which is, oh, by the way, this is basically just a ZX Spectrum book, and it's got slight changes, but it looks to me like I compared them, like the PDF to my actual hardcover, or not hardcover, paperback, and they look the same, and they have the same programs. They do make the changes to say that it's 2068 and not the ZX Spectrum. So, but I was able to use the program and convert the tape files, and create tape files from the source code, which is they're just text files, and that worked out good. And then I uploaded the tape files, so if anyone wants to use them on real hardware or under emulation, they can. And so the programs are kind of neat to look at. Like if you look at this one that David has on the screen right now, random colors, it looks like it's just putting a static picture on the screen and maybe putting blocks everywhere, but really it's kind of, it only looks cool before it fills the whole screen. But it almost looks like a snakehead drawing. I don't know, that's probably a terrible description, but it looks neat. And I'm into video art, which I've mentioned before. And to me, these programs are simple forms of video art for these old 8-bit systems. So I dig it quite a bit, actually.
So Adam, one of the things that you mentioned was with this fan program.
Sure.
About how you talk about your impression about how these colors start to change. They get blocky. Right. So do you understand why that's happening? Do you know why?
Well, I do, because of not the artifacting, but like you have the attributes that only can be in the 8x8 square. Is that what it is?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And I think they call that color clash on the ZX Spectrum.
Yeah. But I didn't expect to see it like so quickly. So this picture that's on the screen right now, you can see that there's on the top and the bottom, they're just pixels, and it's actually, the large squares are also just the pixels, but they're harder to notice because you've got the color clash. And when I first started using the ZX Spectrum about 10 years ago into emulation, maybe a little more, I was like, what's going on with this? Is terrible. But I've come to kind of like it, because, no, I wouldn't say like it, but I understand it and have no problem with it anymore. And it's amazing with some of the programs and games we're able to like work with within these limitations of the color clash and work around it to make it look okay.
Yeah. It's pretty astounding what some of the Spectrum games have done. I appreciated your low resolution screen capture.
Yeah, well, they're not screen capture. I just took them with my camera. Right. Something I would like to point out here too. If David, can you scroll up for just a moment here and compare? So I think it looks much better. So this is under emulation, and when you scroll down a little bit and you see the picture on a real TV, it looks so much better. And emulation is that way, obviously, because you're getting a perfect picture. But I kind of think of it as like the TV is like the canvas, and when you're using a perfect canvas, you're getting just square blocks. And I like the blurriness that's introduced for my CRT. And I don't know if that makes me normal or if that makes me crazy, but I like it.
On that front, there's the gaming community that want to play the old console games, all prefer the CRT because some of the effects, there's a water effect in Sonic the Hedgehog that looks watery on a CRT, but on an LCD it just completely loses it. It just little blotches and things.
Okay.
So no, and there's even filters you can apply to digital screens to try to give them the CRT look, but it's never the same. So no, it's a whole thing.
I've tried those under one emulator. It might have been the Genesis or something like that.
Well,
but I did
too,
that,
the big thing with CRTs, right, is obviously the persistence of the phosphor, right?
Yeah.
So when you light it up, it doesn't just go off, right? It has to decay, and that's you don't really get that in a digital display, right? Because it doesn't need to decay.
Right.
So this reminds me on the Apple and the Radio Shack color computer, some folks would use the artifact colors.
The Atari did that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so do the artifact colors happen on LCDs or no?
Well, the emulators fake it, but it wouldn't happen naturally.
Okay. Yeah, because it's
like so on the Atari 8-bit, which is the system I know the most about, which are the ones you just mentioned, you have a black and white screen, but you get like a red color and a green color, blue color, I think, something like that, even though it's a black and white screen. So
I can actually see your mask, your what do they call that? The mask on the CRT? I forgot the
shadow mask.
The shadow mask. Thank you. Yes, I can see the shadow mask.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, if I had an older TV, I guess you wouldn't see that. But my TV is only 20 years old, so it's practically brand new.
Well, the other thing too is most of the oscilloscopes that you buy today, right, they use LCD screens, and 20, 30, well, anything 20 years and older probably used a CRT. So these newer ones, they have to fake that persistence, right, the phosphor, so that you get you see the trailing signal. So they have to fake that now.
That's crazy.
How come they have to fake that on an oscilloscope? How come you?
Well, because you want to see. Well, not all signals are like that. Like if you're working on a digital signal, you really probably don't care too much about the persistent, the phosphor decay. But if you're working on an analog signal, you kind of want to see, where it's been instead of where it's just at. You know what I mean? That way you can see the ghost trail, right, of a sine wave or something like that. And remember the old Pong games, where the ball would be moving around and you'd see the old trail of the ball, right? Otherwise, the scope would just show you where the ball's at right now. You would never see the decay of where the ball was. And sometimes in older oscilloscope, in analog scopes, you kind of want to see that. It gives you an idea where you were.
Yeah, and the other, not like a vector monitor. I ported the Vectrex. I don't know if you're familiar with that console. It's a vector monitor. I ported that one of the emulators to one of the things, and that's exactly. Otherwise, all you would see is just the bright dot because you're just moving. You're just moving the electron beam, and that's it. And so if you don't have that phosphor memory, that's all you would see is these dots moving around.
Yeah, like the two endpoints were always brighter, like on the Star Wars game back in the arcade days, right? That used the Vectrex monitor, Vectrex, and you would see the ends would be really bright, of a line, but it's just scanning between the 2 points, and it just kind of persists on those 2 points at the end. That's why they're so bright. But otherwise, you wouldn't see the line that it's trying to draw.
In the 50s, before modern memory, even core memory, they used CRTs as memory.
Thank you.
They used the phosphor. Oh, sorry, David.
No, you said exactly what I was going to say. is the CRT memories?
Yeah, I heard about that, and that makes no sense to me whatsoever. I don't understand how that could possibly work, but I have heard of that before.
Yeah, I don't know how it would work either. I mean, Tim,
they monitor the beam current, and if as it scans across, if it sees a bright area of the phosphor, there's a little bit less beam current because of secondary emission from the front of the tube.
Huh.
So
wow.
So they're counting that as like either a 0 or a 1. based
Yeah.
on beam strength.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Wow.
And it's like core, you know, you have to go back and refresh it periodically. So
Right. Or dynamic RAM.
yeah, better analogy.
And that's kind of another reason why, you know, a lot of these retro gamers, they want to save CRTs,
Yeah.
right? So to play their old games on a CRT instead of an LCD monitor, because they may not know it, but that's kind of what you're missing is the persistence of the phosphor on those old games, right? They didn't know any better, right? Back then, there was no technology that was superior to the CRT back then. So they just, you know, that was the technology. It had persistence. You couldn't get rid of it. So they could, you know, you had to either design around it or embrace it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the Apple really did embrace it because if that's the only way to get color is by taking advantage of artifacting. I think like there's no real alternative, right?
No, the Apple II had colors,
Real
but
color?
yeah, but it was really low resolution. Like the low res mode was super blocky. You know, kind of like the way that the attributes show up, right? But the high res mode had, I don't remember, maybe 2 or 3 colors, but if you
four colors, yeah.
4 colors, but if you, and did that include the artifact colors, Jeff?
Well, they call it artifacting only because it's basically a monochrome signal that you just switch on and off at the color burst frequency. So that creates color,
okay,
in a non-standard way.
Okay.
Right, and also the colors could look different on different TVs, kind of like the Coco, right?
Well, you had a hue knob on any TV set, so you could change the color.
Man, we're going back, aren't we?
We are.
That's what it was for.
Soon we're going to be hitting the side of our CRT, like to make it so it doesn't roll, you know.
And don't forget too, the resolution of those old TV sets wasn't really that great, you know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
That's why you had to buy, you know, you really wanted to have good graphics. You actually got a computer monitor, right, which had a tighter shadow mask, and they could make, you know, finer dots and things like that. But TVs weren't like that.
But, you know, you bring up a good point there, Carl, because on my 130XE, I bought an S-video cable. I thought, I'll have a crystal clear picture, which is I do. I have crystal clear picture under S-video. But if I'm looking at something that uses artifacting, I get no artifacting. So I have to go back and use composite so I can get the and I heard that was the way what would happen. But it actually is true. So I never use S-video anymore with my Ataris, even though it looks better, unless I'm doing text only. But
interesting.
Yeah, because I mean, a big spec back then, right, was dot pitch.
Yep.
We really don't talk about dot pitch now.
Nope.
But back then, you know, that was a big deal. That was a big spec.
Yeah, I remember on my Amiga monitors, I was like, I'm going to get a 0.26 dot pitch monitor. That's going to be so great.
Cost you an arm and a leg too.
Yeah.
Well, the thing was, if you used an S-video input, that was the whole point. They put a filter on the lumen inside so that you wouldn't get the artifact color, but then you had to feed the color signal through the chroma side. But
I'm learning all kinds of stuff.
Thank you, Jeff.
The great mysteries of the of computing.
45 years in broadcast television. Had to do something.
That's right. Oh my God.
All hail 3.579545 megahertz.
Yeah, that's right. Never twice the same color, as they say. Wow. So
I wondered.
Go ahead.
I was wondering if we have anyone new here who's never attended a meeting before.
Let me just turn off I got to turn off the chat in order to see. Here we go. Anybody?
If we do, maybe we can make sure they introduce.
Well, Jamie Macbeth has only been with us once or twice, and Jamie, did you get to do your Z80 assembly language programming class teaching thing that you wanted to do? Just to catch everybody up, Jamie was planning on teaching a class on Z80 assembly using the 2068. The last time that I talked to him.
This is recently?
This is recently, yes.
Oh,
yes. Okay. And he teaches, I believe, at the college level, if I recall correctly. but he might. I know he also has a young kid, so he might, he might be trying to keep it quiet right now. Oh, he says he stepped away for a minute.
He's going to have to contact Timex and get the 30 old stock computers from one of their warehouses, and they'll be like, "A what? You need what?"
Right.
One of the universities over in Spain teaches in tertiary, in the sort of university courses, they have a Z80 class where they actually code on Amstrad CPCs.
Wow.
And so in the last few years, there's been like about 30 or 40 games a year come out of the students, and sort of one specializes on the music and another one does the graphics, and then and it's all done off a little toolkit. They've got a little a set of libraries that do the sprites and the music and various other sets. So he's got a base toolkit, and then the students are all coding against that, and typically using C, but a chunk of assembler in there too.
Wow.
That's pretty awesome. There's actually a class that's still on assembly language, because I took one when I was in, high school, back in the 80s, but I certainly don't think that's a common, you don't really program in assembly anymore. The processors have gotten so complicated. We didn't have, all these real modes and protected modes. And, when they were starting to come out with the 8086 and the 8088, like the Z80, you just program it straight, man.
And they sort of draw the students in because it's, you're making a game. And so it's sort of, it's a thing that sort of engages them.
So Jamie says he teaches x86 assembly. I'm going to see if I can get it to he wants to mix in the Z80.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Hey guys, sorry, I can't, I have to keep it down because my daughter's asleep in the other room. I suppose I could turn on a camera too. I look weird.
But you look professorial in that picture.
Yeah. Oh wait, let's see. Okay. Sorry, not as professorial right now. But I do teach x86 assembly. The main function of it is that I think, folks who are maybe I don't want to say the wrong word, old school, and you've experienced those things. People who learn programming now, they end up with very little intuition as to how these machines and systems really work.
For sure.
And so by teaching assembly, they at least get to see things like, okay, here's what really happens when I call a function. Oh, it breaks down into these instructions that need to, push this on the stack and then do a jump or a branch or a call instruction or something like that. And I need another instruction to go back, and my return address is on the stack and all this kind of stuff. So that's kind of the purpose.
It's good to learn how the software really interacts with the hardware, right? You can't really do that in a high level language because all those, like you say, you're just calling functions, and they kind of do that for whatever machine you're on, right? And that's a good thing for those languages, right? They made it easier, right? So now you can make one program and it can run on multiple systems, whereas back in, as you call it, the old school days, right? You wrote assembly language for a Z80 machine for that specific Z80 machine. It wouldn't run on another Z80 machine. You'd have to go change the machine language, right? So it's good to see that. Yeah, I mean, that's how you can really understand, how the software is really interacting with the hardware. How it makes the hardware do what it does.
Yeah, exactly. The follow-up class that I've started teaching, I've only taught it once so far, is a class in operating systems where presumably you get to see a lot more of that kind of stuff. How the software interacts with the hardware and such. Writing a device driver, something like that. Unfortunately the material, I think we've lost a lot of those materials. So it's great to talk to you all because you all are giving me great ideas.
What do you mean by you've lost the materials? What do you mean by that?
I don't know. I mean, what you see now a lot of the time is if you go pick up a college textbook, say for operating systems, you get a lot of high level stuff and block diagrams, people kind of explaining how things work, but you never get the opportunity to actually be hands-on and say, okay, I'm going to build my own I'm going to fix a problem here or there in software.
Andrew Tannenbaum does a great series where he actually builds up Linux, which is like a, and you're obviously aware of it, but it's a wonderful series of books, and the actual, you write a terminal driver, you write your memory management, you write your timers. It's highly recommended if you haven't seen it.
I don't think I've looked at that one. I'll check that out. I'm familiar with Tannenbaum.
Yeah, Andrew, he does. Yeah, there's an original one back from like an 80s version of it or 90s version, and then there's subsequent editions that sort of lose some of the original fidelity, but excellent. And the listing was, the OS listing was in the original version was actually in the book. So
I will check that. I will check that out. Thank you.
Jamie, do you know how many of your people move on to doing embedded systems, and how many of them stay more at a high level applications programming?
Yeah, I wouldn't know what the percentages are. Who ends up doing what? Yeah. I've been teaching this class for long enough, or at the institution for long enough to know. I mean, lots of people, you just hear, lots of people want to get jobs at what they call the FANG companies, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, I guess Netflix and Google or something like that. And you're going to see very little of that, say embedded systems or device drivers or firmware or things like that. I think if you're working at those kinds of companies.
Yeah. I mean, most of my paid for programming has been either embedded or deeply embedded systems, and knowing assembly, even if you don't program it, as you said before, it really helps you.
I want to, especially on an embedded system, because that's kind of your, I mean, you can still do, there's, what do they call object oriented software. Yeah, I know, for the embedded systems, but when you get like a Raspberry Pi or you get an Arduino, that's, you're kind of going back to where we are in this group here, right? We're talking old machines that are basically, that's, I mean, they're way more advanced than those, the Timex was at that time. It can do much more. It's much more powerful, but it's still getting your foot in the door, learning how to code, on a very hardware level, right? Whereas, like you said, these other guys that are programming, they want to work for Microsoft. They want to do OS coding for Windows, right? I mean, Jesus Christ, how many lines of code does Windows have?
Too many.
You're right, and that's why we need so fast processors, because there's so much garbage code that it's got to get through, right? Whereas assembly language, if they programmed it, it would be so much more streamlined and efficient even today.
Well,
but
something we're overlooking here, I think, which is it's not like people wanted to program in assembly language even back in when this computer was new. I mean, they had BASIC in the ROM. Even in 1975, everyone pirated BASIC because they didn't want to program in assembly language, especially flipping the switches up and down. Who wanted to do that? They would have.
I did. Keyboard, I wanted to do that. I thought assembly language was awesome, but
Well, I like the assembly language. I'm not saying. I'm just saying it goes.
But you're right. There's a probably 70-30, or maybe even the 80-20 rule, right? Where
I think more 199 rule in this.
Really?
There's not a lot of people looking into assembly language these days. I'm guessing. I mean,
right. Well, these days you're right. You're probably right. It's very, very like somebody's got to know it though, because device drivers, like Jamie's mentioned, you have to know how to interact with the hardware. So there's still assembly language programming going on, so people still have to know it, but it's not as prevalent now. There's so many people writing device drivers, right? Everybody else wants to be Visual Basic or Visual Studio, or they want to just
it's not
write
even that. I just downloaded a new terminal emulator yesterday, and it's written in Rust. Everything I'm seeing is written in Rust. But get this, it was 348 megs. almost a gig for a terminal.
Wow.
Wow.
It's called NU, by the way. It's called, oh, no, I'm sorry. This one might have been Warp. It was either Warp or NU.
That's crazy.
But both of them are Rust.
I want to jump in with two real quick things. Jamie, cripes. There's a book called The Z80 Microprocessor by
Hold it
Ramesh.
close to your face, David. We'll be able to see it.
Well, it's blue.
There you
That's
go.
the problem.
Yeah, that works.
Can you see this, Jamie?
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so this book is by a guy who, I don't know if he's there anymore, because this is at least a couple years old. 2001. Yeah, he's probably not there anymore. He taught the Z80 microprocessor basically at the Onondaga Community College, which is a community college near Syracuse. And it's a great book for learning Z80, and it's dirt cheap on used book sites. But you mentioned,
I wish I'd known that, because I was living in Liverpool in 2001, which is right outside of Syracuse.
Oh yeah, you could have gone and taken this guy's class.
Well, I would just want to talk to him. I don't need to take his class. We could have hung out and played my Astrocade.
and the other thing I want to mention is Tim Swenson, who's here, was pretty active with the Sinclair QL at the time. For a very long time. He put out a newsletter called the QL Hackers Journal, wrote a lot of programs and articles that, Tim, your stuff is all over these newsletters that I scanned. But the thing that connects this is Tim Swenson was very interested in one point in trying to get Minix available for the QL. And the licensing, because it was published as a textbook, the licensing was tied up with Prentice Hall, and so there was like some sort of weird side path to try to get it through the UK, and if I recall correctly, Linux has ultimately its origin out of Tannenbaum's Minix project.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, but you took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah.
Okay, so I did recall correctly.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm not too sure about that, because Tannenbaum and Linus Torvald had a bit of argument on monolithic kernels. So I'm thinking, he might have used Minix as sort of an example, but I'm thinking that Linus basically kind of wrote his own.
Oh yeah,
that's correct,
my understanding too. Yeah, my understanding is that that he was inspired by Tannenbaum's work, but it was all microkernel stuff, and Linus was into this whole monolith kernel, typical Linux type kernel. And no, my understanding it was inspired, but they're related only by inspiration.
Right. That's what
I thought. I thought Linus Torvalds wrote Linux to put on, or he was using his QL or something.
That I don't. Frustrated with the QL, I think.
Yeah, that was his first computer. I think it's kind of famous because that was his, right, Tim? That was his first computer.
Yeah, it was his first one.
Yeah,
I believe so too. Yes.
Wow. I guess I forgot about that part.
Yeah, he'll have to come join the group.
Yeah, there we go.
Get a hold of him, David. Okay.
Okay, I'll get on that.
You had a Timex. You had a Sinclair. I remember when people would in the U.S. I remember getting remember those baby on board sticker things you hung up? Well, I guess someone in our group made a Timex user on board thing. Like, yeah, but I'm more of a Sinclair person because Timex Millen didn't do the QL. So
well, I had a bumper sticker that said we'll program COBOL for food.
That's still a thing, Jay. People still do that.
Oh, you have to be hungry to do that.
Picture of a coworker standing outside the Facebook with a big cardboard saying, "We'll do core dump analysis for food." The time we both worked for SGI, he did core dump analysis. So,
oh man,
did anybody here ever go to any of the Comdexes?
Mm-mm.
No.
I went to Southern Utah. I went almost every year as a high school student.
Oh, that's cool. So I mean,
back in the days when Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and were actually working the booths.
Right.
That was weird.
Well, that you're predating me. I didn't go back that far, but I know I went to one presentation at Linus, presented there about Linux, you know, and I don't know that he does that kind of stuff anymore, but this was probably, you know, in the early 2000s. But he was, you know, drumming it up. He was, you know, trying to get people interested in it.
And now we have 350 megabyte terminal emulators.
On Linux and Mac, by the way.
Oh, well, okay. Since you put it that way.
When I was computer operating in the 80s, I used to have to carry 20 megabyte packs and swap them out on the drive, portable and removable drives, but they're sort of, you know, this big, sort of a foot and a half big, and they were 20 mega pack. And so
Top loaders, right?
3 or 4 platters, right?
Yeah, that's the one. Yep.
Oh my God, we used to call them washing machines.
The 2311s, right?
Yes, well done. Yes.
When I worked at Timeshare, they had us test a board in a PCXT that would then daisy chain to a couple of those disk packs or a single large external hard drive that were like 130 meg. I think the disk packs were 80. And we tested this in an office environment. So here's all these people, and then we're firing up this stuff that's like a jet engine going off. Because all those disk packs weren't designed for an office environment. They're designed for a computer lab.
We had a power outage, and the power went out, but you can't start them up with the heads in. And so you have to wind the heads back. And that's like the starter for a Model T. You poke this thing in and then sort of wind the heads back to the home position. So when the power came on, it didn't crash. And so as a junior at the time, I was running around winding all the heads back on all these drives.
Oh my God, that's
Those
crazy.
are the 2311s, IBM 2311s.
Well, there was a bunch of them. When I was in the early 80s, I was in junior high, but we had a university, and they had a control data cyber system, and it was on display. There was, you know, big glass windows, right? And you could look in, and they had at least, you know, 20 of what we used to call the washing machines. But they weren't IBM. They were, you know, whatever control data purchased.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was IBM, and then there was the bunch: Burroughs, Univac, NCR, CDC, and Honeywell.
Yeah.
I've heard tale of someone using one of those disk packs and walking it off the floor.
What?
So basically, the person did was they would seek all the way to the into the interior, and then seek back to the beginning track, and then keep doing that and getting faster and faster, and the thing would start to wobble. And they actually were able to walk it until they thought, oh, just walk it and the cord will come out. Well, the cord was too long and it walked off of the raised floor.
Wow.
Oh,
there was an author some years ago in the 90s who went on the internet back in the Usenet days and said, tell me all your great stories. And from that became the book, The Devouring Fungus. So if you ever get a chance to read a bunch of old computer stories, go read The Devouring Fungus.
Very cool.
Well, tell me what that book is again. What is The Devouring Fungus?
The Devouring Fungus. I can't remember then the author was a woman author. But I remember seeing the announcement she made on Usenet asking for all these stories. And she's got deluged with stories. And it was actually a very good book to read. I've got it somewhere in the garage.
Cool.
Sorry, just another little anecdote. The tape drive system had a glass window and there's pneumatic columns on it. And so because we, you know, didn't want to wait, we'd hold the defeat switch so the glass window would stay down while you sort of load the tape up. And one of the tapes shattered on me and leapt off the spool, and I had to jump back because the glass was down, and it skidded along the ground as well. With little shattered bits of plastic flying around and a big long stream of tape left behind it. And you know.
So you're talking about the 9-track tapes then, the big 9-track machines?
I don't know how many tracks. It's the big IBM stand-up. Fridge type.
In the 90s, I worked at back then it was called TVI, and I worked in the computer operations room, and they had an IBM ES 9000, which was like a part of the 360 line. I think it was one of the last ones, but we had a bank of I think there were 3 9-tracks and they were from the previous machine, and they weren't used too much anymore, but sometimes we'd have to get data off of them. And I know exactly what you're talking about, those glass shields, although we never skipped doing that, what you're describing, probably for that exact reason.
Yeah, there's a little switch that hits the top, and if you flip that in, it thinks the glass door's up, and it just saved a little time. But
so are these kind of the, you know, what I would consider like a reel-to-reel? You know, they
Yes.
look like the reel-to-reels.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah.
I had one on a Sun 360, rack mounted Sun 3, and it took me a while to figure it out because every time you'd run it, it would rewind. Well, then there was another device called NRST, non-rewinding tape. Like, oh, now it can read a file, then read the next file, then read the next file, instead of having to read file, you know, or read a file that suddenly rewinds on me. So that was a bit of a discovery.
So you can just think of, you know, like the cassette recorders that we use on these little, you know, old micros as a little bitty version of that.
Yeah.
Without having to worry about it almost killing you. You took it out at high speed.
Although the cassette reminds me more of a quick tape. You guys know what a quick tape is? QIC?
Yeah. The 40 and the 80, right?
Yeah. That was on. Those are backup tools for Suns. And then, so when I was at SGI, I specialized in being the tape guy. So whatever tapes people attached to SGI machines, and it came to support, I got to deal with them. So I dealt with a bunch of those type of stuff.
Wow.
ESTs and Manmoth and.
So I guess maybe I'm the only one who doesn't know what a speed tape. What did you call it? Speed tape?
Quick tape.
Quick tape. QIC.
Quick tape.
Like a
You know, I'll call it
cassette.
whatever.
It
What
looks
is that?
just like a larger cassette, smaller than a VHS and thinner, but the same idea of a cassette tape. It goes until the very end. And
Yeah, I've got some SCSI tapes like SCSI drives like that.
Yeah, if it rewinds too far and breaks it like a cassette, you pretty much hose, because now it's just flapping on the other end. You can't rewind it.
Or
Yeah.
does anyone here is anyone familiar with the Commodore Amiga 3000 that came with Unix? It had like a
I have a bunch of Amigas. I
Okay.
don't have that one, but
because I remember someone at our user group, they had that, and it had a little cassette, because it was a 100 megabyte cassette.
I have a Commodore tape drive
is that what we're talking about here? That's
Similar.
Something
Okay.
like that.
Yeah, that could have been DCT, or there was a couple different formats available.
Right.
Uh,
I saw the 3000, but never played with it.
Yeah, I just cleaned out one of my 2 storage lockers. My son came and helped me. So I got some of my Timex stuff that I showed you the picture. I have the RGB for that 2068 there on the side there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Yeah, I had bought that one, and I also wanted to tell a story. I'm a programmer. I'm a COBOL programmer, and
how's that going for you?
It's probably going really well.
I'm still that back in 1990.
I'm still employed.
Yeah, he's like one of the last 3.
Yeah, probably.
So this program had told me about like these tape drives. He just wanted to be funny, so he wrote a program that read the tape reversed, and it made the operators there wondering, is it working right? You know, their tape drive, because he opened it reverse and they would read it backwards there.
That's crazy. So
I think he was playing with the operators' heads.
I want to get back to the Jack Boatwright story just for a few minutes. So back in the 90s, Rod Gowen had been selling Timex stuff for about 10 years at this point. And his eyesight was failing, and I don't recall if, I think his wife had passed away, and after a few months, after his wife had passed away, he said, to the various user groups, he said that's it, I'm throwing in the towel. And at that point, the main newsletter around was the one called ZXir QLive Alive, and he wrote to the guys who ran that and said, I got all this stuff, I'm getting out of the business, I don't want to send it to the landfill. And so through a newsletter that came out every quarter, and they had email, they had like they might have been talking through Usenet as well at the time, but they organized amongst themselves and raised some money and sent Rod you know, a big check, and he and his daughter packed up as much stuff as they could and sent it to the middle of the United States, to Iowa, maybe Illinois too, maybe to Chicago where Jay is. A whole bunch of this stuff got sent out to the middle of the country, basically.
Would that be Kansas?
No, I don't, not directly. No.
That was Lemke.
Lemke, yes, he's still in Wichita. No, Rod was selling all sorts of stuff. I mean, he was selling Stan's software, for instance. That's how you know, some of that documentation that Jay sent me, you know, got to me because Stan had sold stuff to Rod, who then used it to produce the packaging for selling. So anyway, Rod says he's getting out of this thing, and the folks involved in ZXir QLive Alive, who were also many of whom were also involved in the Chicago area Timex Sinclair group, you know, organized, raised money, got it to Rod. And so he started sending stuff to them, and in the middle of this, Jack kind of revived his interest in the Timex, and he wrote to the folks at ZXir QLive Alive, and he got roped into the project, as it were, because he was in Oregon, and so was Rod, and that's where the Clackamas County is, not Washington, it's Oregon. So, but you know, they weren't exactly close. He had to drive across the Cascade Mountains to get to where Rod was. But he did, and he went over there and he took his pickup truck and he filled it up with a ton of stuff, and brought it home, and, you know, put it in his garage, and I guess he put it in his attic too. And then not long after that, there was a guy who was heavily involved in the ZXir QLive Alive newsletter by the name of Don Lambert, and he was the very first editor. He got kind of shanghaied into being the editor of the newsletter. Don was involved in the Cedar Rapids user group, and the only way that I'm remembering this is because they all had funny names. Like the Cedar Rapids group was called the CRAGIST group. So Don had been very active in newsletter exchanges, which is what the user groups would do at the time. They'd produce a newsletter and they'd send a copy off to all the user groups that they knew. And in theory, those user groups would, you know, send you back a physical copy of their newsletter. And Don was very good about this, and corresponded with a lot of user groups. And so he had a large collection of newsletters and like full runs of some of, you know, these user groups newsletters. And so at some point Don said, my wife is telling me I have to downsize my holdings. And so Don sent all of his stuff over to Jack. And so Jack has been the caretaker for what is this, 30 years, 30 plus years basically.
Wow.
Of all of this stuff. Yeah. And you know, the goal back then was just preserve it, don't lose it, right? And so Jack has been sitting on it, and he found us, and now I guess it's getting preserved.
Did you find my FDD 3000 newsletter?
Not yet. Did you send any to Don or anybody that you?
I think so. I exchanged with quite a few people.
Okay.
It was a monthly newsletter for like, I don't know, 2-3 years.
Wow.
I took it over after Ron from
Ron Haviland.
Yeah, Ron Haviland.
Yeah.
He did an outstanding, extraordinary job, and through his newsletter, I was able to wire up both a modem and a serial port on the back of it. He had one of them reversed, and I contacted him, and I got it. I got it working. So he was very happy about it. I think it was a modem he had reversed.
Yeah. There was a whole bunch of right. And so part of the reason for this newsletter, people exchanging these newsletters, is that they would all reprint articles from each other, right? So once knowledge got out about how to take the 2050 modem circuit board, which was available in large quantities from folks like Rod, and there was another guy named Ed Gray who had a whole bunch of them he was selling at one point. You could buy.
Ed also had FDD 3000.
Oh, cool. So you could buy, a bare board, bare modem with no case and stuff, and then with the help of this article, you could turn that into an RS-232 port, and then connect it to a faster modem or to a serial printer or to something like that. And so one newsletter prints the article, and then they send their newsletter off to the other user groups, and they all put it in their article. And that is how Tim Swenson is all over the place. He is in so many newsletters. I bet he doesn't even know. So Tim, my goal after I do, a couple small things, my goal is to find, all the places that you are and put that together in a package for you.
So David, are you, so basically you're kind of saying that you've gotten all of this repository of newsletters from this person.
Well, Jack is still sending them.
Okay.
There's another box that's in the mail. There's even more stuff, that he needs to dig through. But Jack is, my guess, Jack's in his 70s at least, because I think he would have been in his 40s back in the 90s.
I guess, David, you should probably maybe request. I don't know who's here, but you've requested on the groups.io that if there's anyone who lives up in that area, maybe they could help him go through his collection. So if he needs it, I guess.
Right. So if there's anybody in the Sisters area of Oregon, Sisters is a little city in Oregon. If there's anybody near Sisters who's reasonably young and spry and is willing to volunteer some of their time to go help Jack with his, just digging his stuff out and sorting it out and packing it up, reach out to us. You can reach out to me through the website. You can reach out to us through our groups.io list, and the information about that will be in the comments beneath this video. Reach out to us and let's hopefully we can get Jack some help. I looked on the map. It's pretty remote. It's
helpful that this is posted to YouTube, because maybe someone will see that and check that out.
That's what I'm hoping. Yeah. So that's my update.
You said earlier that you got a scanner too, right? You said
yes. Is
it just a sheet fed scanner?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's about so I was describing it. I think it was just before you came on. It's about the size of a box of aluminum foil.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, it's one of the smaller ones.
Goes through, but it's so fast, and it does both sides at once. So fast. Yep. And the point, I was making earlier was, it's so fast that I have a stack of paper on my left here and a stack of scanned things on my right, and I don't have enough time to sit and read anything while I'm waiting for the pages to scan anymore. Versus
if you get a little better one, they have ADF, so you can stack 50 sheets, right? And it'll scan through all of them, and they're about the same size, right? But they have the ADF on there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I have. I mean, I've got, this thing's a huge. Well, I've got two of them. One's a scan.
Carl, you're just gesturing at your 2068 in the background.
Right. Well, yeah, I know, but they're over on my right here. But one's an 8500 scan jet, the other one's an N9120, but the N9120 can do huge, bigger sheets of paper. But yeah, that's kind of how I do my stuff.
That's cool.
I just load 100 sheets in that thing, and it'll go through 100 sheets in maybe a minute. and it scans both sides, and it's full color, right? And it sends it over to my FTP server over here. And then I use Acrobat and create a PDF out of it.
Very cool.
And then it's also OCR'd, but you know how Acrobat can do that now and still keep the original image. So it's RCA OCR'd behind it. So you can search it, write a searchable PDF, and it still has the original graphics and everything from that page. So you don't get the OCR that we were getting, 20 years ago, where it was, oh my God, that was just horrible.
That was awful.
Unless you had a lot of time on your hands to correct all that crap, because it didn't know half the shit that was on those pages. But now it's pretty good, and it's really fast. I mean, it'll, you can do a 100-page PDF, at least on my machine, and it might take it, 3, 4, or 5 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
To go through the whole thing. So
I might have to look into that if this stuff that Jack sends turns out to be even more voluminous.
When did you first hear from Jack that he was ready to send these documents your way?
Well, I think Jack reached out to me last year, and we chatted on the phone a little bit. And his technology is a little old, so he can't do Zoom. We chatted a little bit on the phone. We chatted through email. He sent to the group. I don't think he sent it to just me. He sent to the group some pictures of a BEU mock-up that he had made out of cardboard and spray painted silver. Because that's you do you, right? And
like Paul might do that, actually.
I would have loved to do that too. Yeah, I really want to recreate that picture. That picture that they always show with all the the Timex dream.
Yep. And Jack, I think he managed to get an original of that photo from Timex at some point, because his scan of that image was one of the very first on the internet. He actually did a website a number of years ago about the Timex, and I want to say it was that he did his site in the late 90s, maybe early 2000s.
Yeah, that's where I know him from. Also, he was part of the Yahoo Timex group.
That's right. Yes. And he actually corresponded with someone at Timex who I guess recalled that they made computers at one time.
That's amazing.
Now they have no recollection of that.
Well, it's not even made here in Connecticut anymore. There's nothing made in Connecticut.
Right.
Not watches, nothing.
Right. Yeah.
So David, I wanted to tell you, one of my newsletters, I also included the schematic for the FDD 3000 that I got from Portugal.
Oh wow!
I think I got it from Nazir. Yeah, so I have if you get the newsletters, well, one of the newsletters I included the schematic for the FDD 3000.
I sincerely hope that somebody has preserved them and that they make their way to us, because that's pretty interesting.
Then you can make a PCB out of it. We can stuff all the parts on it and make our own now. Modern day ones.
Well,
I believe it's a large PCB.
It runs CPM as well, so there's a whole library that you can add. I ran a lot of CPM on it.
Yeah, how was that? So
64 column.
64 column. Okay, all right. So it's not terrible. It must have been okay.
Also, I got from Portugal a software driver for 80 column.
Oh wow. Okay. Did that work?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how did it look on your monitor? You had to use a monochrome monitor, I assume.
I had both like an amber monitor at the time.
Yeah.
Which is easy on the eyes, and I also had a color monitor. But
wow.
Because it was software driven, it really wasn't that portable.
Yeah, right, right. So I want to give some other folks a chance to jump in, because, well, for instance, Ingo has done a little more work on his keyboard, and put up a post about that. And if Jeff, if you had any update on your project, Ryan, have you managed to unearth any more of your ancient programs? So, Ingo, let's start with you. Let's see if I can get you to unmute. I see your microphone. I wonder if your real microphone's not working. Oh, he's having. All right, Jeff Burrell.
Hello, am I on?
You're on.
Okay. I've kind of taken this spring off because I haven't been feeling all that hot. However, I've gotten back into this, and essentially what I've done is ripped up some of the work that I've done before and am redoing it, because I finally realized that this is 2020 and not 1990. So I'm leveraging the hardware. So essentially what my interface is doing right now is it's booting up and reading in the ROM images from the SD card for the 2068, the Spectrum ROMs, and and a GW ROM, which is a derivation of the Spectrum ROM. Reads that into RAM and starts running it from there.
Wow.
And there's also in the background, I've implemented, I'm starting to change this. I've implemented the bank switching similar to what the interface one does. So ultimately what's going to happen, and right now I'm in the middle of writing that software. So what'll happen is that you'll be able to load in any one of those ROMs, and there will be an individual DOS file for Spectrum and for 2068 that will get loaded in automatically with the ROM images. So basically at the beginning, there's a startup screen. Just hold on a second. I don't want to make people nauseous as I'm moving the camera around. Yeah. Be ready for shaky cam.
Okay. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's probably worse than not having anything. But let me get my reset pin out.
The reset pin.
But right now it's opening up into the boot screen, and it allows you to select ROMs with a DOS and ROMs with no DOS.
Oh my.
And then it'll just boot into it. Right now I booted into the 2068, and it runs the 2068 firmware just fine.
Yeah.
So that's going to simplify a lot of things, as well as not require a whole bunch of double EEPROM, which apparently those chips are being made with unobtainium now.
They're very
so
hard
at any rate,
yeah.
So at any rate, that's kind of where I'm sitting right now, and this thing's taken longer than I'd hoped, but given the cost of parts, I'm waiting until things start to shake out a little bit more before I go with the CPLD version.
Very cool. Very cool.
I guess Jeff's must think alike. It is exactly a good description of the Romex product that we're selling for the Apple II series.
Does a very similar thing?
Yep. Actually, it just replaces the ROM chip in there, and there's a menu system where you can upload images to it and select which one you want at boot. Anyway, the romexchange.com if anybody wants to go there.
I did look at that. It looked very sweet. It looked really like a commercial product. I mean,
well,
in terms
it
of
is yeah, it is a commercial product. We've sold hundreds of them, but
wow.
Still, for an old machine, that's not too bad.
Yeah, right.
I do have a question for the group here. I'm using right now a Raspberry Pi Pico for accessing the SD RAM or the SD card. And I'm wondering, there's a new version of the Pico that's come out that has Wi-Fi on it. Now, is Wi-Fi something that people would be interested in having?
Well, I'll tell you, I have a first generation Spectrum Next, and it has Wi-Fi in it, and I have used it to, telnet to stuff, which is kind of cool. But I mean, the problem that you run into is what's out there to connect to.
Well, that reminds me of the FujiNet project, and I see they posted something recently, probably showing a new Spectrum version as well as the new Apple II version. So,
well, I mean, Wi-Fi too. I mean, you could maybe get files into the machine or out of the machine easier
if you're
using Wi-Fi as well. But you're going to have some kind of applications to do that. But otherwise, say like you wanted to get a program into the machine. You have it on your Windows PC, how would you do that? It would be easier through Wi-Fi, I think. I mean, you could just put it on an SD card, I suppose, and put it into your SD card reader, and it would get it that way as well. But, I mean, I think Wi-Fi probably is a good addition, especially I don't think it costs much more for that version as opposed to the non-Wi-Fi version. And I think the non-Wi-Fi version is going to probably go away, right? Because I think they're kind of, they want to stick to one, being with all the chip shortages and everything. It's like, well, let's just make one and let's make a lot of them instead of splitting our resources up. But, I think Wi-Fi would be good. Maybe we're not leveraging it now, but who knows what the future holds, at least it would be there.
I use it with the Atari FujiNet all the time because I can mount images or I can test images without having to download them.
Right.
And to being able to just look on anybody's server, or you can put your own server and share your stuff very easily as well.
So you have to put up a server is what I was thinking. You'd have to write a server.
Yeah, somebody runs a server with the Atari, and they're making with the Apple. They've got one for the Atom. You actually can mount disk images and treat them as virtual drives, reading and writing across the world. There's a big site in Poland that I connect to all the time. And it appears just like a SIO device on the Atari as if it was a drive locally, and you can mount like 8 drives at once. So
Oh, that's kind of
there's
cool.
really cool stuff you can do with it.
Yeah. So I think that, like I said, we may not have all the applications in mind, but stuff like Greg was just mentioning, that would be a possibility. But otherwise, if you don't put the Wi-Fi version in, it won't be.
Well,
Telnet's a pretty simple interface.
True, with some type of serial, but go ahead, Adam.
I have a question for Greg. So you have the FujiNet. What is that software that Thomas Cherryholmes has made so you can access? I forget what it's called, but you know who I'm talking about, Thomas Cherryholmes?
He's on the FujiNet project.
Yeah, he's made some software that lets you access some old database or something like that. It's like maybe it's
Plato,
Errata. It's
it's actually it emulates the FujiNet emulates a modem as well.
Okay.
And so you can use it. And so you have it set up so you do the ATDT, but you give a URL instead of a phone number, and it's able to intercept that. And so people can set up their BBSs, and you can go ahead and actually run the BBSs.
Okay, so is that what Errata is then? It's a BBS?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Errata is just Atari backwards. It's the Errata on.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah, that's why it's plan Errata if you play Mule.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
Mule. Oh my God.
Yeah, a little Easter egg there. But the FujiNet also emulates all the SIO devices. So it acts as a drive, but it also acts as a printer, which is really handy. So you can print. You tell it what it has its own web server built in, so you can configure it remotely through the web, and you can tell it what kind of printer you want to emulate. So when you print a document, it converts it automatically to PDF. You go to the web server and you download it, and whatever, if it's the old the with the dots, the 9
Like a
pin.
print shop
It looks
document
like
or
a
something?
9 pin. If you had a letter quality printer, it emulates that. If you had a plotter, it comes that, and so it emulates all the devices. And with something like where you use the single port on the Sinclair machines, you could do the same thing. Since you daisy chain all that stuff, it just behaves with all those devices.
Interesting.
So Jeff, yeah, go with the Wi-Fi. I tell you what, I will learn enough Python to write a server.
Okay, sounds good.
And did I understand you said it was only $2 difference in price? Is that right?
Yeah, the original the Pico's 4 and the Pico wireless is 6.
Right.
If you can find them.
Yeah. I was going to warn you, it's a black hole you'll get into writing the software, but apparently now Dave's offered to do it. It's on tape.
That's right. It's recorded. David will learn enough Python to write a server.
Dave knows how I feel about writing software, so better you than me.
But it's Python, yuck.
Well, it's reasonably portable.
It has the sin of treating white space as important.
Yeah, that part does.
To me, that's a big sin.
That does irk me. It's like, those pretty printers for Pascal.
I want my braces back whenever I use Python.
Yeah. Python's a great name for a snaky language like that.
Coming from Pascal, C, and other languages like that, you got to have some sort of beginning and end statement. This white space is important is just unheard of.
Is it too maddening for you?
No, it's because all Pascal, Fortran, Pascal and C and Super Basic and other ones, white space is not important. It is just completely blown through with all shell scripting, all that stuff. But Python comes along and says, no, I don't need to worry about that. I'm going to say that's to be ignored. White space is important.
It brings
That's not
back
the only language.
programming in COBOL today. COBOL is column based.
Yeah, column based.
Yeah, so is RPG.
Yeah.
RPG.
Has anyone ever heard of the programming language called Rebel? REBOL?
Not in a very long time, like 40 years.
No, Rebel is pretty recent.
Is it?
About 20 years old now.
Okay, I must be thinking of something else. One of the other balls.
Carl Sassenrath from Amiga wrote it. It's a scripting language for communications.
Huh.
Okay. I used Snowball 50 years ago. Maybe that's what you're
Snowball, thinking. Yes. Algol.
Yeah, I
was a great language.
Yeah, I worked with Algol on the Burroughs system.
Pre-Pascal, yep. Had to write a compiler in college for Algol.
Well, okay, so maybe I won't do it in Python. Maybe I'll do it in Pascal.
Honestly, I don't think Tim's going to care what language you write it in, as long as he doesn't have to write it.
Right, exactly.
I'm not into hardware, so I'm not going to be buying this or using it. So
take a look at Rebel. It's supposed to be a competitor to Python, but I don't know if it's been updated at all. I've dropped interest in it because I'm not really into it.
So, Ingo, you said you got your mic to work?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I spent 8 weeks on the road and I was using the microphone in my MacBook, but whenever I'm at home, I use the microphone that's on my webcam. So I just forgot to switch it over.
Great shirt, by the way.
Yes.
Pardon?
We're admiring your shirt.
Oh yeah, thank you. So the latest post. Let me share my screen here. Here we go. Oh, hang on. That didn't work out the way I had planned. Let's try that again.
This was... Well, I can see it, but is that not what you want to show us?
Yeah, I don't know. Oh wait, hang on a second.
You wanted more white
that is
space.
really weird.
I've
No,
got
I don't know why that did it that way. Hang on.
I've got an external keyboard from Memotech that plugs in.
There we go.
CX81.
This is the one I want to share. So I was sharing the wrong screen for some reason. I don't know how that happened. But I've got, here we go. This will work now. Sorry, folks. Having all kinds of technical difficulties today. All right, are you guys seeing the blog post now?
Yes.
Yeah, we see it.
Okay. Okay, good. So anyway, yeah, so I for anybody that knows, I made a mechanical keyboard, and I originally modified the headers. You can probably see it in this picture here, to just put regular male pin headers where the original keyboard ribbon sockets were, but figured probably a lot of people wouldn't want to modify their ZEs. And Dave shared an article quite a few meetings back, or shared a schematic of how to tie a keyboard into the expansion port. And so that caught my interest. And I'd already built a little breakout board for connecting to the expansion port. And but his schematic called for I think it was a 74365 chip, which I didn't have in my inventory. And so I decided to use a GAL, generic array logic chip, to basically act as the 5-bit buffer, and also as the OR gates, and just programmed it all into one GAL chip. And so that's kind of what I did here. And so I wrote about it, and it worked right out of the gate, which was very exciting. It was only my second time programming a GAL. I did one a while back, and but yeah, here's the schematic that Dave shared, and that was let's see, April 4th. Can you guys see that all right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So I had the 7432, which is just four 2-input OR gates. Have plenty of those, but I didn't have this 365 chip, the 74LS365. And really, in this case, the only thing it's being used for is a buffer, and it can be enabled and disabled. So you can have, it's a tri-state output basically, and you need that because you're connecting directly onto the data bus. And so I just wrote some, let's see here, hang on, I scroll down to the code, here we go. So a lot of people use WinCupl or WinCupl, however you want to pronounce it, for programming GALs. And I came across another program, open source on GitHub, called GALasm, and that's the one I used. And just wrote a couple simple logic equations to define the outputs, and pretty straightforward. I don't know if it might be better if there's anybody who has any questions to.
Now, this is a one-off for just you, right? Like, and this blog is to give other people's ideas on how to do it for themselves, correct?
Yeah, I mean, so I've been trying to learn more about digital electronics and retro computers, and I just about a year ago started blogging about my my experiments and my mistakes and my victories, and just hoping that maybe somebody might stumble across some of this stuff and maybe be inspired to try something themselves, or just to kind of share some stuff, and maybe get some feedback from some other people, and just having fun nerding out.
Yeah, I get you. You're doing this on the 81 and not the 80, right?
So I'm doing this on a ZX81 and on a TS1000. So yeah, basically an 81. But I believe the same thing will work on a ZX80, and I think it'll also work on. I think the 2000 is similar, and even the 2068, because I believe the circuit you showed, Dave, that was for the 2068, right?
Well, if you look at it plugs into the cartridge slot. It looks like it says 2068 cart.
That's right.
Well, it was was it?
Yeah.
The schematic.
I thought it was in the expansion.
Yeah, it says 2068 cart. If I remember seeing it right.
Yep, there it is. Cart. Yep.
Well, you have most of the same signals.
So yeah, it must
you've
work
got,
on
you've
the
got the same pins, right? Right. Because I mean, the only pins you're using is you're using the read signal, you're using IO request, and you're using address 0, and those three signals together as basically the enable for the port, right? So for the port read, so you're reading the keyboard port whenever all three of those are low. And if you're getting that signal off the expansion port in the back or off that cartridge port, then
so you should be able to use your project there on the 2068, because luckily Timex mimicked the 1000's bus right on the 2068.
Okay.
So all the TS1000 pinouts should be identical. So you should be able to just plug it into that, and it should work. Just double check your power lines, make sure you don't have anything going off on the 9-volt line, or the
15. It's 15.
Yeah, it's 15 on the 2068, right? But you sure 15 is on the inside on the 2060?
On the back?
Yeah, I thought they might have
5 and 15. It's the Spectrum that has 9 volts on the back.
Right.
And they might have 12, but
I just thought they might have moved 15 outside of because since the 1000 didn't have that, I think it was a no connect.
Oh no, so the 15 is on the 2068 portion.
Okay, right.
It's outside of the 1000 range. Yes.
They didn't want to blow anything up with the 15 volts on the 9-volt.
Well, excuse my ignorance here, but isn't the 1000s and the 2068s have dissimilar keyboards? I mean, I don't mean physically, but they have extra keys and things.
Yeah, the scan is the same.
You're
so
correct.
Even if it worked without any, it wouldn't really work. I mean, what would happen? Would you be missing keys, or the keys that were there would function and then the rest wouldn't? Is that what?
I think most of the keys are the same.
Yep.
The layout is the same because it's a 5-bit, 5 keys by
8 columns.
8. Right. So you have 40 keys.
Yep.
And then, the Timex has a space bar, right? But I mean, they just made the membrane.
I don't know why they put a space bar on that machine. What was the purpose of that? Who uses that?
when a space button will suffice.
You got the ZX Spectrum with a space button. Come on.
It's great to have a nice big space bar, man. I got little Casio pocket computers that have a little space bar.
Yeah, I think as long as you have the key in the correct place, you'll be okay. So
right. Yeah. I don't think there's any extra keys on the 2068. It's just the layout's a little different.
It just has some duplicates. You got 2 cap shifts that map to the same thing. You got the space bar. Everything else should be the
I guess Ngo, we're saying that you probably could try it on the 2068 and it should work. It should work.
Yeah.
And this kind of reminds me of when we were talking about this, I was kind of thinking, of getting a regular, Well, not really necessarily USB keyboard, because that's now you're adding a whole bunch of complexity to it. But
right,
like a PS2
now
keyboard.
you gotta remap it. Yeah.
Right, like a PS2 keyboard, if you could connect a PS2 keyboard to an interface and connect it to this, that would be pretty awesome. Because then you could just use a regular, a nice PC keyboard for your.
Right.
So
but
Carl,
then where do you put all your you would have to relabel it with all your functions, right, and all of your basic keywords and all that.
You would have to either label them or have a printout that shows it, or if you've got a later machine, right, that doesn't need the
allows you to actually type them in,
right.
Mhm.
Right, the later Sinclairs, they got rid of the I was showing the Spectrum Plus, I think they got rid of the captions on all the keys,
the 128K basic. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So
this one was just like a step. It was a step in getting away from, first of all, having to mod the original board of the computer, and also this way you could actually have two keyboards, right? Your membrane keyboard still keeps working, and you could have an external keyboard. And it's also, for me, it's a transition to getting to taking it a step further and possibly actually integrating a key buffer, right? So that you can type faster, type ahead. We've had some conversations about that in the past. And so I thought, all right, if I can get away from, the running straight in to the main board, but having an external circuit that could be plugged in and out of the expansion port, you could do some other stuff, maybe even do something along the lines of what you were saying about using like a PS2 keyboard. If you basically, remap a different keyboard, right? And then just have it interface the same way, so that the ZX81 or TS1000 or whichever computer is the wiser, right? It doesn't know what's on the other side.
You're just giving yourself a decent keyboard to type on.
Mm-hmm. Right, and that's what I started off with. Yeah, and this particular step was just using a PLD, right? To
you're just learning how to use it, make sure it works, and so that's kind of cool too, right? So now you actually
that was a lot of the fun of it. Yeah,
right.
It was at first I was like, darn it, I don't have a 74 LS 365, and then I went, wait a minute, I still have several gals laying around. Maybe I can use a gal to do that. And so that was cool. But I definitely want to take it further. So not sure what the next step's going to be. I think it's going to be the buffer. I think I'd really like to get, a Typematic buffer, or maybe even like, a repeat key function built into it, but we'll see.
Well, it already repeats on the Timex, but
actually, Ingo, I'm pretty sure that one of the articles I came across had schematics for a variety of sort of add-ons, like how to make one key on an external key do the function of two at the same time, right? Like function and something else. And also one of the features was what you just said, repeat, which I think may have used a timer to generate the pulse train. And Carl, a guy named Jack Doheny designed
I think I know where you're going with this, because I think you sent it to me before.
The PS2,
it's a PS2 converter, right?
Yep. Came across the full schematic, and in an article he talked a little bit about the EEPROM, and he's using the EEPROM as a state machine to do the translation. If I can remember where I found that, I'll send that one to you.
or even
that tonight,
or even that to the Ingo, because that's, I think I would, well, I don't want to say anything in his place, but I kind of see where I would envision it going there. Taking this interface to a point where you could connect at least a PS2 keyboard, right? And then you can use, you can use any PS2 keyboard. Well, they're kind of getting rare these days, but it's a much better keyboard than either the 2068 or the 1000, right? So, using that keyboard to use for your machine.
Yeah.
Through this external interface. That's a perfect, I know they have it for other machines, right? I think the Apple, they do it, and I think they do it on the Atari, right? Where you can plug a PC, a PS2 PC keyboard into it, and it'll work. So, I mean, I haven't really delved into that, but I obviously somebody else has from David's explanation there that, so it's possible. And that may be, probably you want to put that on your bucket list for this little interface, because I think that would be an awesome, not that you'd sell a ton of them, but I would certainly like to try one of them out, because I got some PS2 keyboards laying around that I don't use anymore, so it'd be good to give those guys another life.
I was just about to say, who doesn't have PS2 keyboards lying around? But then again, maybe just the people in this group. Maybe just us.
I actually have an IBM Model M buckling spring keyboard, cool. And that's like, for me, that's the holy grail of keyboards, and just love that clickety. I love that clickety noise and that tactile feeling of it. So yeah, it would be a lot of fun to.
Is the Model M the one that has the
make an interface circuit?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Is it the one that has the function keys on the side? Is that the Model M?
No, they're across the top. It's pretty much your standard 101 key keyboard layout that we're all used to.
Is it the one that came with the XT or the AT originally? Because those are really clicky.
Yeah. So because they have that buckling spring inside, right? It's actually like a little membrane keyboard, but it's got a buckling spring inside of it. So when you push the key, it actually bends the spring inside of it, right? And it gives you kind of like this click boing sound. It's you can't duplicate that with any other way than doing it that same way.
Well, there's a Kraftwerk song called Click Boing.
Boom shock.
Click Boing.
Yeah. Anyway, we can replicate it that way.
You guys ever see the YouTube keyboard mods? Like,
no.
It's a whole industry on keyboard.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah.
That's what inspired me to make this keyboard, because these are all Gatoron blue mechanical key switches.
Nice. Yep.
And
cool.
And I thought, I want to make a better keyboard for the ZX81. So.
Wow, that's very cool.
Ingo, I don't know if you need it with those keys, but the keyboard beeper and sound module that I had done, which we have the schematic for. Maybe you want to add that to it. And
yeah.
Heck yeah.
You got to put some LED lights on it now.
Well, especially for the 1000, because there's no sound, right? At least you would have some feedback when you push the key, right? The 2068 clicks, it has its click. Yeah. And like I said, it repeats too. The 2068 does, but the 1000 doesn't.
I think would be even more fun is, unfortunately, Radio Shack is closed. But remember, you used to be able to buy buzzers from Radio Shack, and build Jeff's beeper, but instead of like a little speaker, put a buzzer on it. Then everybody in the neighborhood would know that you were using your computer.
The point of the speaker, though, is that you could also toggle it, so you could play music and sound, and you could do speech synthesis if you wanted. So.
Yeah. So you can toggle the buzzer and do sound.
I don't know. I guess you'd sound a little bit like Hawking, but maybe.
Have you seen those floppy disk orchestras that people do?
Sure.
There you go.
No, actually, what are you talking about?
Oh, so people pay.
You haven't seen that?
I don't think so.
Yeah, they hook up a bunch of floppy drives, and then they make it. They move them back and forth. You're seeking the heads. Right, they move the steppers back and forth, so they make music with the different.
But they run the steppers at certain speeds. Yeah, exactly, and then they'll have like a whole.
Yeah, they've got like 24 floppy drives.
There's a bunch of YouTube videos on that.
Yeah.
There's a guy that makes something for the Apple II. We have all these, SD card floppy emulators. So he just has a little relay you can put in line with it, so it just clicks to make the sound of the stepper motor.
Oh, that's awesome.
I don't know why anybody wants it, but
yeah, I have a GoTech that does that. I had to put the speaker in there, and it makes a tick tick tick, like it's actually going to the next track.
But he sells his board, and that's all it does. But People buy it. They think it's cool. It doesn't sound anything like what the stepper motor sounded like, but it makes a clicking sound.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's
So
awesome.
I just noted a note, so I wanted to check out that floppy disk orchestra. But I'm noticing here that I just wrote a few notes on the side. And if my wife was to look at this list, the first one is the devouring fungus. And then the floppy disk orchestra. She'd be like, "What the hell meeting was this you were on?"
That what you need to look up next. I can't remember the name of the group that does the stuff with printers where they print out just thousands of pages. Who knows? Someone has seen those. No.
No.
How do they print out thousands of pages?
That one's a new one to me. Using printers to make music.
Well, no, they're using it to actually make graphics and stuff. They just have 500 printers on a wall, and they're printing out images.
Really?
In real time. It's a group.
Oh,
they've done a bunch of videos. Some of them where they just shoot it at either high speed or slow speed.
Go.
OK Go. That sounds familiar. It's been a while since
okay.
I've seen it. They have a bunch of videos, and that will definitely tickle your fancy if you watch a few of those. Especially the one they did with the printers is kind of interesting. There's only a couple printer jams that happen, but and then they ended up with 30,000 sheets of paper on the floor, but they did say they recycled it. So I thought, but they're very fun to watch. Yeah.
Mark Scheck, you just mentioned a speech synthesizer module. Which one? What's that? Do you recall?
Yeah, remember I told you I went through the box of Timex stuff I had over at my house.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's a speech synthesizer mod, so I gotta show it to you. I'll take pictures and send it to you in the next when I'm not working like 16-hour days.
Oh, okay. Was it the Zebra or was it somebody else?
I think it was Zebra. Yeah, it was
okay.
Zebra Talker.
Okay, cool. All right, so it's the Votrax module then. Very cool. Very cool.
We're down to a little over 10 minutes. Who else?
I wanted to call on Ryan to see if Ryan had unearthed any more programs that he wrote for us.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, I did get. I think there's another box, but I did have a box of curly printouts.
I love it.
Hopefully they're not too faded, because that happens.
Yeah, some of them, the very beginning of the listing did fade. I did find this funny one. But I found my suffered a bit, but I could probably reconstruct it. Some fading there, and
oh my gosh,
and rubber band around it. But this is the my user-defined graphics editor.
Nice.
It has similar. I think it's early, but the interface is pretty similar to the font editor. But depending on, and then I think I have other listings of it. That one I embellished quite a bit. So I have to see if any of these things have some of that in there. And if not, I'll be challenged, of course, to recreate it. Here's one I must have typed in. It's called 3D. That's 3DEE by Jack Keen. That is something. Produces apparently some 3D-like graphics.
I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you need to scan that for us, Ryan. But both Adam and I are really into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and apparently I did some printouts with the. I must have had some utility that lets you do the printouts in the really tiny font.
Oh wow!
I don't remember what that was from. Is that a TazWord utility?
Could have been. Yeah, TazWord
might have been one of those word processors. I know you could print out like higher resolution than.
Yeah, I had TazWord, but I think it might have had a utility that lets you use to do stuff like this. So yeah, there's probably some more things in here, and like I said, I think there's another box that might have a few more things, but and just random bits. And I don't know. Occasionally, I print stuff in some of the fonts I did.
Oh, that looks fantastic.
Hey, don't take it away. I'm still writing it down.
Oh, this must be.
You'll go to the YouTube video and just freeze frame it.
There we go.
Hey, that's
Okay.
what I did with Dave's schematic.
I haven't found it yet, but here's some.
Oh, neat.
Grabs of my function plotter.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't be really hard to recreate. But the thing that none of the, so you see, it's like the, is that the function?
Yep.
Yeah. So you just enter the function as a string. And if you guys remember that the value function will evaluate expressions. So you just put X in there, right? Wherever you needed X, and it would just loop X. And then you could, it could ask you for another one. Well, everyone else's function plotters, of course, was a line of code in BASIC. You had to stop the program, change line of code. And so you couldn't put multiple functions on one plot unless you wrote your program to do two functions and then stop. So I just put as many as I want. Plus the on-air handler could take care of when you had the
out of range or off the screen.
And so that gave mine a leg up on everyone else's little homework cheating program when we were doing curve sketching.
On my latest blog entry, I kind of relearned about the plot and exactly how fast it or how slow it is. Really, it ain't a speed demon.
And that's why people learn machine language, Adam.
Yes,
well, and
correct,
that's the thing is that I got the machine language bug a little bit, and so Adam was mentioning how the key response in the program was a little slow, and I did adjust the loop, move some stuff around, and I think it's gotten better. But then before I released that, I decided, hey, you know what? This other piece that's kind of slow, I don't have a solution for that. So you know what? I bet I can write a little bit of machine code.
Nice.
To do that. And so I started doing that. I installed was it Z80 ASM is one of the free assemblers. So I could not sit there and tear my hair out with just write the stuff and then
you're going right back to 40 years ago, because a lot of people were saying the same exact thing you were. I need to write some machine code for that because it's too damn slow.
When feature creep becomes feature gallop.
Yeah, so I'm just finishing the first one of those. So it has a little bit better bit toggle with the space bar. And then one machine code routine just helps it copy the bits faster. I just give it the addresses that needs, and it can either copy the one character bits or the function where it copies the whole ROM font. And then another routine.
Oh, so you made a ML code to copy the ROM to RAM, basically? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I don't have it in the user interface, so you just have to know that it's, what is it? Symbol Shift Q, whichever one that is.
Well, we don't need documentation. It's okay.
No. And so that goes quicker, but the main problem was whenever you went to view a character, it had to decode all the bits into that block array. It was a bit pokey. So I thought, well, how can I do that? Well, the machine code could surely decode that much faster, but then how do I get the decode into this array that I can display in BASIC? And so you make use of the system variable, is it vars? I think it's called. No, sorry, it's right next to vars. Dest. It's the address of variable in assignment. The problem is it gets mixed up when you call a machine code routine. So I had to get clever, and I had to say, well, let me assign I had basically, I could probably actually rewrite that now I think about it. I basically had to just get the address of that character string in memory.
Well, it should be on the stack, Ryan. You know, the address of the variable should get pushed to the stack when the user function gets called. You see what I'm saying?
Well, I think when you call, yeah. So basically, well, it's probably I just need it now. I think about it, I can just do it the one time. Come to think of it, but basically, I just
what you call live programming, I suppose.
You're right. This is team programming.
I got it working, and I didn't go back and realize I could simplify that. But so you get the address of the character array that I put those big. They're just inverse space and space, right? So
yeah.
Get the address of the variable, and then put that in. I have some data bytes for the machine code area. So when it goes in there, it looks there and gets the font address. And if it's doing this, there's a place for this, the variable, the address of this array, character array. So it's just 64 characters. And so there's a little machine code routine that goes in and says, okay, what 8 bytes are we looking at? And then loads each byte and does some shifts of the bits.
Hey, Ryan, I hate to cut you off, but we're down to about 2 minutes here. And I know we have to talk about when the next meeting is going to be.
Sure.
And I think maybe that's about all we have time for. Because I think
I want to give
this one was postponed. So, or this one was postponed. So I think, are we going to have one next? Well, you tell me, David.
Supposed to be the third Sunday, right?
So actually, let me share my screen because this is a good opportunity.
Did you get a calendar program?
Well, right, I figured out how to embed a calendar in into the web page, and now I just got to find which one of these. There it is. Okay, okay. So let me switch tabs to this page. This is the community page, which is under the About menu, the very first link, right? And it's how to get to the YouTube channel and how to sign up to get notifications of the meetings. And then there we go. We've got the calendar. So there's today, right? The 11th. And our next one is going to be in 2 weeks on the 24th. And
we have 5 Sundays this month, don't we?
We sure do.
Oh no, we don't.
No,
we don't. Never mind.
No, it's just offset. So it's actually gonna be the 4th. 1, 2, 3. No, you're right. There's 5 Sundays. The 31st. So right, it'll be, and then you can go to August, and we will be. Why did I put it on the 8th? There must have been a rationale for this. Let's see here. Oh, so it'll be 2 weeks.
Right.
2 weeks from the. It's every 2 weeks, roughly, at this point. So not August 1st.
Yeah, I thought it was the first Monday and the third Sunday, but
so shouldn't it be the 17th? It should be the 17th, right?
Yes, but I'm not doing that.
I'm glad. I should have left 20 minutes for this time setup.
Y'all have to wait until the 24th, okay?
So
and I'm not doing, a meeting like a week later.
Oh, I get.
You gotta wait 2 weeks, okay?
I understand.
Just a few seconds left.
Just send out the emails. We'll be there.
Yes, I'll send out the emails. I also wanted to give a plug for where is it? Oh, here it is. The Sinclair ZX World, right? And most of the stuff that folks talk about on here is the ZX81. And you can get an RSS feed from this forum, and that's what I have set up in my little feed reader. And so not long after I had uploaded, all these scans, somebody, multiple somebodies, had started typing in programs from some of these newsletters. So here's one. Somebody named David G started typing in programs from Sinclair News, and then also from the plotter, which was that user group newsletter from Oregon. So I reached out to David. I'm going to encourage him to come to this meeting. Another person who's on here is Greg Harder, and Greg and Fred Nackbauer used to work on a bunch of projects together for the 1000. A lot of high-res stuff. There's a program, a game that Fred came up with called Dungeons of Ymir, YMIR. And
I've seen an ad for that actually in one of the.
And it's like a little roguelike for the 1000. If you don't know what Rogue is,
what Rogue really for 1000? That's awesome.
It's a roguelike, yes. So it's pretty nifty. I'm gonna stop my share. Okay. And I'm gonna try to get Greg to join us and talk about all the kinds of stuff that he's done. He's got a YouTube channel, so if you go search for Greg Harder on YouTube, he's put up videos of demonstrations of these 1000 programs that he and Fred wrote. Things like plotting fractals on the 1000.
That must be very fast.
I'm sure.
Wow. It's probably still plotting the first one it started, from 1982.
Probably in assembly. They were good with assembly.
I'm just teasing.
Yeah. So they were doing some really cool stuff. So I'm hoping Greg will join us. Adam reached out to the guy Jaroslav, who wrote a book. What's the name of the book again, Adam?
Don't ask. Don't
okay.
ask. That's okay. But the one about Czechoslovakia.
And Stano wants to join us. I think he's going to join us.
He was going to come tonight, but I guess
I thought so too. But it'll be an insanely crazy hour for him.
Yeah.
For us,
probably
so I think
night for him.
He'll probably be with us on Sunday, which would be a much more reasonable time for him.
That makes more sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure it'll be feature packed.
Oh, I also contacted. I think I got this to you too. That the person who makes the backbit cart for the Timex 1000.
Right.
I contacted that person, and I thought she was going to join us tonight. Yeah. Exactly.
You got Evie. Yeah.
She wants to join the meeting. But she only found out yesterday about it, so she probably doesn't have time. But she's going to join us. I mean, not to plug the Astrocade, but she just made one for the Astrocade, so her cartridge actually now works with the Astrocade, so I need to order one of those.
That's crazy.
And
yeah, I've got one on order too, but they're back ordered ever since she came out with them. So
yeah, well, she said she's working on them now, so to catch up.
Okay,
so.
yeah, because I think I got it back in April, something like that.
Yeah, she's catching up with the orders now, and then she's going to wait 6 months for anyone who orders new ones. So you'll get yours, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Well, because I talked to her about the 1000 and the 2068 and emulating, using that cartridge on those machines. Because as David knows, and probably most of you know, the 1000 was her first machine that she ever.
Right. So it'd be fun to hear about that. Just that alone.
Yeah. So I was surprised to see that she was making it for the Sinclair, 1000. I was like, what? Somebody's making stuff for this?
Well, I was surprised to see that she wanted to get it for the Astrocade. Yeah. And what was amazing to me was she got it, and then like a week later, she had the Astrocade, she got it working. It died after like 2 minutes of running. She fixed it, and then a week later, she got the cartridge working with it, and she wrote the software so it supports it. So pretty
amazing.
Crazy.
Nice.
Amazing.
But I think that wraps it up, David. Anything else?
Yep. No, that's good. Thank you, Adam. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for coming. It's been educational and delightful and as wonderful as I'd ever hoped it would be.
That's great. Thank you, guys. I'll talk to you later.
Love talking to you.
Night all.
Have a good night, everybody.
Yeah, David, now that I got some of the stuff out of my storage lot,